Hi, my friends. It's a beautiful day out there, and I am indoors. But it's because I haven't left my place yet, and today I don't feel like bringing stuff out there to do the recording outdoors, so I'm just gonna do the recording here before I leave to spend some time in the woods, do my meditation and all that stuff. And I figure today I'll do the recording before that, and then I'll upload it a little bit later on today, on this Sunday. But today I want to talk about the cosmos and duality. And I'm going to be doing a lot of reading on this one, so just keep that in mind. Basically, I'm going to be doing a lot of quote verbatim from some of the things that I have watched Jiddu Krishnamurti talk about. If you're not familiar with who Jiddu Krishnamurti is, look it up. I highly recommend that people would go and watch some of his talks and interviews where he talks about all kinds of like spiritual things. What I like about Krishnamurti is that he is a very deeply philosophical talker, and he talks in a very like mind structured manner, so it becomes very easy to assimilate and understand what he's talking about. Let me take a sip of my coffee here. So let's begin this. So what's the meaning of cosmos? If you look up the definition, on online, whatever, it's basically the universe, or a well-ordered universe. Krishnamurti talks that cosmos, it comes from Greek, and it means order, supreme order. So when you look it up on Google, that doesn't really seem to come up, but that's what his explanation was. So what is order? Is order a discipline? Or is order a habit? Disorder means conflict, chaos. As long as there is psychological conflict, there must be disorder. Conflict exists when there is duality. So what is duality then? Duality arises when we get angry. That's just an example, right? Duality is like a social construct that we as mankind have created to have this whole social structure that we live in. Duality only exists when people do not face facts as they are. Duality exists when there is denial, different opinions. Now, everyone is free to have their own opinion on something, right? That's the beauty of free will. We are all free to do whatever we desire over here. But the fact will always remain a fact. A fact is an absolute. It doesn't change. It never will. It never has. It's like the self. The self is always here, no matter what. The self is present at all times. The self is here when you're thinking, when you're going through the motions, when you're in deep silence, deep meditation, deep reflection. The self always is. The self is always here. But that doesn't mean that the self is always manifesting itself. Do you see the difference? Because in order for that to happen, we have to allow the self to come through, even though it's always present. Think of it as if you are in a movie theater watching the movie in a big screen, right? That movie that's playing, you are the movie. Would be the correct analogy to make. You are that movie that is being played on that big screen. And at the same time, you are the light at the movie projector that is projecting the movie onto that screen. You are also the audience that is watching that movie, all at the same time. That is what the self is. So even if that place where that movie is being played is empty with no one there but yourself, the self is always there. Whether there are thoughts going on in and out or not, the self is always there. Well, let me continue with this. So I was saying that duality arises when we get angry. This is all Krishnamurti words, okay? I am pretty much repeating what he was talking about on one of these things that I have watched, and I wrote it all down because I thought it was pretty interesting and fascinating at the same time. I love the way he teaches the stuff. A fact has no opposites. This is what he was explaining, right? A fact has no opposites. Think of it as like when we have, let's say you're having a conversation with someone about something, and someone may have a different opinion about what you are talking about. But let's say, for instance, that whatever you are talking about with this other person is a fact. But they don't see it that way because of their thought process. So, because of the free will, they have the right to disagree and have their own opinion on the matter that you are talking about. But The fact is the fact, regardless of their opinion about it. You see, that is duality. That is how duality works. A fact has no opposites. But we can invent an opposite. That's what he was talking about. This is what people do. People start looking for justifications for things. And when I'm talking about people, I'm talking about it's it's kind of part of human nature because of the social structure that we all grew up in and the way we think about stuff based upon how we learned, how we grew up, all of these things that I've talked about before, right? We are not different from anger. We are anger. These are Krishnamurti words right here. Let that sink in. We are not different from anger. We are anger. These are not my words. So the bottom line is there is no duality. When he's talking about we not being different from anger, he's basically explaining that when we feel these things, when let's say something happens that makes you angry, we try to afterwards you may feel bad about it, and then you're trying to justify why you were angry instead of just allowing that moment to have happened and then just gone without judging it yourself. And I've said this before in some of my other videos. It's okay to be angry sometimes. This is what we don't get it, we don't understand. Because we have been conditioned to feel bad about something like that when something like that happens. But we never look at the root cause of the thing, right? Why did we get angry to begin with? And when we question ourselves these things, we are not questioning it to see why. We're questioning it to see how did it occur. It's kind of a way of understanding the feeling and allowing the feeling to happen and to be, because there's nothing wrong with it. What you are can never be changed by thought. This is another thing that he said. You see, what you are can never be changed by thought. That is the self. This is what he was meaning when he said this. That's the self. It cannot be changed by thought. It's always there, regardless of thinking and of thought. So order exists when there is conflict, and there is more when there is this better. I don't. How did I write this? So order exists when there is conflict, when there is more, when there is this better. And what he means by that is how people see themselves as better than others sometimes, right? Because of their social status, for instance, because they have things that others don't, because this is how people measure their own worth here in this world as humans. People have this misconception, an idea that by having more money than somebody, more material things, it makes them better than other people. And that's not the case. And this is a fact. So let that one sink in too. So violence and non-violence, right? Non-violence is not a fact. You can use it as a political stick he was talking about. He talks about politics sometimes on some of his things, and it's hilarious because you can tell he's laughing. Sometimes he actually does laugh because he understands how silly and ridiculous all these things are. This entire social construct that we created with political structures and, you know, rules and regulations, right and wrong, this and that, you know, it's all made up. None of that stuff matters when you look at it from the self perspective, from the cosmos perspective, right? But the fact is that we are violent. To remain with the fact, let the fact answer, not your answer. So I'm gonna say that again. The fact is that we are violent. To remain with the fact, let the fact answer, not you answer, not your answer. Because a fact is a fact. It's unchangeable. It's immutable. It is an absolute. When you begin to answer the fact as though as you are separate from the fact, then the problem arises. Then he goes on to explain how we are violence. Yeah, I know this sounds crazy, right? But you gotta understand what he's talking about here. How we are violence. This effect is not only physical violence. Violence, then he goes about to explain this whole violence thing and what he means by saying that we are violence. Okay, so that he talks about not only physical violence, he goes on to talk about violence of hate, of anger, jealousy, obedience, imitation, conformity. All that is violence. Then he goes on to say that when we put our complete attention to it, then that violence is gone. And when what he's talking about here at this specific point in time is when we put our complete attention to it, he's talking about awareness. He's talking about being the observer. This video is gonna be a little bit longer than I expected. I guess I wrote a lot of stuff down, so bear with me, guys, because this is important. This is very very relevant. Um, so when we put our complete attention to it, that violence is gone, and we can all test this by ourselves by putting our hearts into it. Then he goes on to say that when there is complete order, you will never ask what is our relationship with the cosmos. Because we are one and the same. So it's like the moment you stop. These are other things I wrote. This is not him talking about it anymore. The moment you stop the dream of becoming, good or bad, you awake from the dream of life. Because you see, we are nothing more than the dreamers within a dream. Life is very similar to a dream. Isn't that ironic? The dream of life is the play of becoming. Then there is order. The dream of life is the play of becoming. Then there is order. The fact has no opposite. The root of the self is the movement of the thought. So what did he mean by that last, part there? And I don't remember if this was him that said that or I got it somewhere else. But the point is, what he means by that is that, the root of the self is the movement of the thought, is that as long as you are always allowing presence to be there, the self, the awareness, the observer, you don't become identified with the thought. Because that's not who we are, that's not what we are. And this is pretty much it for this video. Probably quite different from other things that I have done in this sense, and it may sound very intellectual to some people, but trust me, it's not. What it is instead, it's very, very analytical and self-explanatory in that sense. And I highly recommend that you go to YouTube and look up some of Krishnamurti material. There's plenty of it. There's so many videos of him talking about these things. It's absolutely heart-opening, to say the least. Beautiful stuff. He explains it all in a very clear way, easy to understand. This is all I wanted to talk about on today's video. This is one of the longest I've done so far in recent times, guys. If you like what you see, if you like the material, if it resonates with you, like, subscribe, share. I love you all. Never stop loving yourself. And I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm gonna finish my coffee here and go to the woods now. Take care, my friends.